Hi, I'm Samantha Scott. In this episode of Voices in the Wind, we're talking about the importance of therapeutic services with our clinical director, Dr. Kate Schwartzenberger.
Across the prairies, the wind is a constant companion. Drifting down from the mountains, across hills and valleys, forests and plains, the wind is a harbinger of change. It whispers warm breezes across snow-covered winter landscapes and caresses sunny summer evenings. It whips up snow into blizzard frenzies and boils up ominous black clouds of prairie thunderstorms. And if you listen closely, you might hear messages in the wind which speak of hope, change, and renewal. This is Voices in the Wind, a regular broadcast from the Chinook Sexual Assault Centre where we share news about our mission to end sexual violence and child abuse across southwest Alberta.
Hi, I'm Samantha Scott. I am one of the External Communications and Sustainable Fund Development Officers here at the Chinook Sexual Assault Centre. I would like to welcome you to this episode of Voices in the Wind, a podcast dedicated to exploring news and information about sexual abuse, sexual violence, and child abuse. This can be a difficult subject to tackle, but we want to take a hopeful and uplifting approach. To do this, we hope to showcase the outstanding work being done to help those that have experienced abuse, while striving to offer the kind of insights and awareness that lead to meaningful social change. Before we get started, I just wanted to let you know that we may touch on subject matter that is uncomfortable or triggering. If you feel like you need help, please reach out to our office at 403-694-1094 or to the Alberta One Line for Sexual Violence at 1-866-403-8000. You can also visit our website at csacleth.ca. In this episode, we want to take a look at the therapeutic services that we offer at the Chinook Sexual Assault Centre, and more specifically, the Chinook Child and Youth Advocacy Centre. To do that, we are happy to welcome our clinical director, Dr. Kate Schwartzenberger. Dr. Schwartzenberger is a clinical psychologist with over a decade of experience working with individuals who have experienced trauma. Prior to becoming the clinical director at the Chinook Sexual Assault Centre and Chinook Child and Youth Advocacy Centre, Dr. Schwartzenberger worked at the Luna Child and Youth Advocacy Centre, assessing and treating children and families who had been affected by child abuse and neglect. She has experience in acute inpatient treatment of trauma. In addition to treating victims of child abuse, she has also worked with individuals who have experienced violent crime, war conflict, political torture, natural disasters, and motor vehicle collisions. Her research has focused on the familial relational impacts of childhood abuse and neglect. Dr. Schwartzenberger has many years of experience as a supervisor training practicum students, residents, and provisional psychologists, and has taught undergraduate psychology courses at the University of Windsor and graduate level courses at the University of Calgary. Welcome to Voices in the Wind, Dr. Kate.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
So in our podcast today, we are focusing on the therapeutic services we offer here. Can we maybe start by asking you to define what we mean by therapeutic services?
Sure. So that would refer to both assessment and treatment, because not everyone who experiences trauma or sexual violence, sexual abuse, different forms of child abuse would have symptoms. And so we would first provide an assessment to look at the impact of that trauma on their functioning to determine if they require services. And then we would offer various forms of treatment. And so usually when we say therapeutic services, we're talking about therapy. And that can be either individual or group therapy.
Okay, that's great. So can you talk a little bit about the importance of therapy in helping children and youth and families dealing with the effects of abuse?
Sure. Yeah, so as I mentioned, not everyone requires therapy when they've experienced child abuse or sexual violence, but some people will present with trauma symptoms afterwards. And so that can be things like distressing dreams, nightmares, intrusive thoughts, hypervigilance, so kind of feeling like they're always on edge, looking over their shoulder, hyperarousal, lots of mood dysregulation, starting to have kind of scary or negative thoughts about the world, like there's unsafe people everywhere, nobody's safe. Those are common symptoms of trauma. And we have very effective treatment for those symptoms. I think there's a commonly held myth that when you've experienced particularly sexual violence, that you're ruined or your life is over or there's no coming back from that. And that couldn't be farther from the truth. We have very effective treatment. So 75% of people who come in and receive evidence-based treatment for post-traumatic stress disorder, which is the diagnosis that kind of encompasses all of those trauma symptoms I've just described, will leave treatment without PTSD. So we have really effective treatment.
That is so awesome to hear. And can you tell me a little bit more about the evidence-based approach that the center takes in providing our therapy services?
Right, yeah. So we use evidence-based treatment only at the center, and that means that research has shown them to be effective, as well as we use our best clinical judgment, and then we take into account the cultural, personal, social, religious values of the client and incorporate that all into treatment. And that's what we mean when we say evidence-based treatment. Evidence-based treatment for trauma in children would involve caregivers. So that's a very important component. Caregivers are involved in all parts of the treatment. And then also it involves an exposure piece. That's the other key ingredient when you talk about evidence-based practice for trauma. And so that means they have to talk about what happened, which can be really challenging. That isn't where we start. So it's not what happens on your first session when you come in to meet with a therapist. We would build rapport, a sense of safety, build some skills first. So we usually work on emotion regulation. We work on looking at thinking and thinking errors. We all kind of make the same kind of thinking errors, like blaming ourselves for things that aren't our fault, or blaming others for things that maybe actually we do take some responsibility for. Those would be examples of thinking errors. But we build those skills up, and then when they're in a place that they're comfortable, then we would talk to them about what happened and get them to process their thoughts and feelings about what happened. Although that it can be very challenging for clients, it is the only effective way to deal with their trauma symptoms. And when clients, like I mentioned before, finish that, they can leave without trauma symptoms, which I think is pretty incredible. Yeah. And we can see really big changes in especially children and adolescents, where they can leave symptom-free, which is pretty awesome.
That is fantastic. And at the Child and Youth Advocacy Center, we not only provide individual family therapy. I know you mentioned earlier that we provide group sessions, and one of the examples is the Connect Parenting group. So can you tell us a little bit more about these groups?
Sure, yeah. So I guess last time I didn't mention kind of what the evidence-based treatments are. So I'll just name them in case people want to look them up afterwards and kind of learn more about them. So the individual ones would be trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy. That's the main research-supported treatment for children and adolescents. And then we also offer dialectical behavioral therapy, which is a group therapy. And that's really what builds skills. So emotion regulation skills, crisis survival skills, really helping with mood and kind of giving alternatives to risky behavior. So when you're feeling so distressed and you want to turn to risky behaviors like drugs, self-harm, suicide, this even yelling or wrecking a relationship by just being dysregulated, DBT or dialectical behavioral therapy will give you alternatives on how can I respond in those really heightened, high emotional times. So we offer DBT, and here at the center we offer DBT for adults, and that's a 2-hour group, and then we also offer it for adolescents, and caregivers attend with the adolescents, and that's also another 2-hour group. And then we also have parenting groups. So you mentioned the Connect attachment-based parenting group, and that is a very well supported research program that comes out of Simon Fraser University. And we offer that for caregivers, the non-offending caregiver, to learn how to best support their teenager and children. It's from 8 to 18, so I guess children and teens. But sometimes when you've gone through these difficult experiences, then parenting gets a little bit more challenging and complicated. And so Connect provides a way of responding to their attachment needs and can really help with the parent-child relationship. And as we know, kids and teens spend most of their time with their caregivers. And so bolstering that parent-child relationship is really important. So we offer Connect. And then for the little ones, so under 8, we offer Circle of Security parenting program. And that is the same. It's an attachment-based parenting program. It's just geared more for little kids. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that information. We're going to take a little bit of a break, but when we return, we will talk to Dr. Kate more about therapeutic services at the Chinook Child and Youth Advocacy Centre and why she is passionate about the work that she does there. So now, here is Brett Brown with Chinook Wins, a look ahead at some of the exciting things happening in April.
Hi, I'm Brett Brown, and welcome to Chinook Wins, our monthly summary of news and events at the Chinook Sexual Assault Centre. Sexual Violence Awareness Month is just a month away, and here at the Chinook Sexual Assault Centre, we are busy planning a number of exciting events to promote awareness and raise funds to support our services. Make sure to watch our social media channels in the coming weeks to learn more. One of these events is Run Wild, an annual running event held to raise funds for child advocacy centres throughout Canada, including our own Chinook Child and Youth Advocacy Centre. The local entry deadline on April 5th is quickly approaching, and we would like to see as many of our local supporters as possible register. We're also inviting local participants to take part by joining us May 3rd from 12 to 3 p.m. at beautiful Henderson Lake in Lethbridge. To register, just go to runwild.ca. We're also hosting an art display throughout the month at the Yates Theatre Gallery. Impact Unveiled Beyond Silence is a display to create a space where individuals impacted by sexual violence can be seen, heard, and supported. We hope to encourage important conversations in the community through artwork which celebrates survival, healing, strength, empowerment, and the emotions tied to these experiences. Also during Sexual Violence Awareness Month, we will be hosting a fundraising event at the Owl on May 23rd, and on May 1st, Lethbridge City Hall will be decked out in teal, the color symbolic of prevention of sexual violence. We encourage people to wear teal throughout the month, sport a teal ribbon, or add a teal ribbon on Facebook, Instagram, or other social media to show your support of sexual assault survivors. Make sure you tag us in your posts. We're also participating in Rogers Birdies for Kids presented by ElkaLink. From now until the end of August, donations made to the Chinook Child and Youth Advocacy Centre through Rogers Birdies for Kids platform will be matched up to 50%. This is a great way to extend your generosity and to support the work we do. To participate, you can click the Donate Here tab on our link tree or visit the Rogers Birdies for Kids website and select the Chinook Child and Youth Advocacy Centre. Then make your donation. And finally, the Chinook Sexual Assault Centre has decided that we will no longer be active on the X platform. Now, we've taken this action to prioritize the safety and well-being of survivors and our staff. Of course, you can still connect with us on other social media channels, including Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube, where you are likely watching this broadcast. And for those seeking support or information, please visit our website at csacleth.ca or contact us directly at 403-694-1094. We remain committed to providing a safe space for those impacted by child abuse and sexual assault and continuing our important work in the community. Thanks for your understanding and support. That's the way the wind's blowing this month. We'll see you again soon for Chinook Wind.
Thank you so much, Brett. Welcome back to Voices in the Wind, where we are speaking to Clinical Director Dr. Kate Schwartzenberger. Before the break, we were talking about the therapeutic services we offer here at the Chinook Child and Youth Advocacy Centre. In this segment, I'd like to dive a little bit deeper into your practice. So we know that you have a passion for working with children and youth, and we also know that you're dealing with tragic circumstances in the work that we do. So to look more on the positive side, can you tell me a little bit about what gives you joy in the work that you do?
Sure. Well, first and foremost, I enjoy the team that I work with, and I think that is really important when you're working with such heavy content day in and day out, is to have a supportive team and a supportive work environment. I would say the second thing that brings me joy is what I mentioned before, how children and adolescents are so resilient, and with treatment, we can see such gains. And so I think it's the most rewarding part is to see children and adolescents come in really symptomatic and then see the changes and the improvements after treatment. So see them going back to school, re-engaging with their extracurricular activities, re-engaging with their family, and healing some of those wounds within the family, and seeing their change in mood and their ability to sleep through the night and feel calmer and safer and not experience intrusive thoughts or memories anymore. I think that's the most rewarding part.
That's fantastic to hear. Now, unfortunately, we are not able to provide therapy to everyone who we meet at the center. Can you provide a little advice for parents and or families on what to look for when they're choosing a therapist?
Yeah, I wish we could provide services to everyone who needed trauma services in Southern Alberta, and I think we'll talk about that later on how we might be able to increase our services here. But if, because of our long wait times, if someone is looking for a therapist elsewhere, I think it's really important to find the best fit. So you first and foremost have to find someone that you feel comfortable with, who makes you feel safe and who you feel like you can connect with. Sometimes you might not know that on the first session, so I say maybe give it a second session, but sometimes you know instantly, and that's fine. You can try someone else. I would recommend looking for someone who is specifically trained in working with trauma and who uses evidence-based techniques, especially when working with children and adolescents. There's a lot of techniques out there that take a long time and can potentially cost a lot of money that aren't very effective. And so it's really important for parents to be looking for a therapist that uses some of the treatments that I mentioned, like TFCBT or EMDR, and using those more exposure-based treatments instead of more play-based treatment.
Okay, and I also understand that you do some work in assisting other therapists in their practices. Can you tell me a little bit more about that work?
Yes. So a therapist, because we only have limited therapists here at the center, we do want to support community therapists, and in particular rural therapists, to decrease the amount of travel people have to do to come in and see me here at the center. But I'm always available to consult with community therapists if they have a tricky case that they want to consult on. They could call. We also offer a monthly consultation group for trauma-focused CBT, and so therapists can come in and learn how to apply TFCBT to their practice. So they would take the online training, and then they would come in and we would go through de-identified cases so that they can learn how to apply that technique and have some support as they do that.
Mm-hmm. And you have been talking about waiting lists. So unfortunately right now we are currently facing a pretty long wait list for those who want to access therapeutic services at our center. Can you speak about those waiting lists and how important you feel that it is to expand the therapy program here?
Right. So the demand always seems to outweigh the resources. And so we definitely need more therapists and would like to be able to provide more timely services and services to more people, because I think rightly so, sometimes families feel frustrated by the wait list and then feel the need to seek services elsewhere. And we would like to see more people be able to get services at the Advocacy Centre. The purpose of an Advocacy Centre is so that they can come to one place where they feel comfortable and well supported and have everything happen in one place to reduce re-traumatizing them going to different places and retelling their story. So if we had more therapists, then we would be able to address that need better. We also at the Advocacy Centre have the advantage of having our child advocates who act as case managers for the therapists, and so that helps better coordinate services. And I think that's one of the main advantages of getting services on site.
And finally, to finish off, we heard that you have been selected as a panelist for a special group discussion at an upcoming national conference. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, yeah. So in May, I'll be going to Halifax to the national conference for the Child Advocacy Centres. And the purpose of the panel is to speak to one of the criteria for accreditation is to have evidence-based treatments provided at all advocacy centres across Canada. And so I will be speaking about how we incorporate evidence-based practice in our centre and how you can do that with limited resources. So you can still use evidence-based treatment effectively with not a lot of therapy providers.
That is awesome. Well, that wraps up this episode of Voices in the Wind. Please join us next month when we speak to Kaylee King, the chair of the Chinook Sexual Assault Centre Board, about Sexual Violence Awareness Month. For more information about the Chinook Sexual Assault Centre, please visit our website at csacleth.ca or call us at 403-694-1094. If you need help, you can also call the Alberta One Line for Sexual Violence at 1-866-403-8000. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next month.